Hello, everyone. Glad to see you back here at Silver Tears Tarot. And of course, a warm welcome to those of you who are new. So, we're going to tackle another question that came in from a viewer, and I really appreciate it. I get these notes from viewers, and sometimes they share a little bit about their situation, but they usually end with a question. And here's something that, I've always just kind of been wondering, or how do I go from here, and how do I go from here is honestly kind of the question that we're gonna get into today. And so I got more than one question from viewers and people who were seeking personal readings, who were just kind of saying, how do I know if it's maybe time to disengage? And then if that's the case, how do I go about doing that? How do I go about disengaging and walking away? And everybody's situation is going to be their own, but we're going to look into that today. And of course, it is everyone's situation is their own, but this is a general reading. So it's not going to resonate with everybody, and it shouldn't resonate with everyone. But if you find that it's your story, you may want to go back and look at a couple of other videos, and maybe even subscribe if you're maybe part of this collective. Because one thing we will have noticed is that all of the readings are very much connected. So we're going to start by looking at that energy between the two of you, and that's what I typically like to take a look at to get things started. And it's something that changes with your mood, and it really can change with your moods. Um, it's that energy that's happening in the spiritual realm behind you, that you're kind of swimming around in. We've got a lot of movement of energy. So we've got the Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands is about energetic movement, fast energetic movement. Things are really starting to happen now, from an energetic standpoint. Things may look like they're kind of standing still in a physical situation, but there's a lot of swirling going on. And if you're connected to that higher self and connected to your higher power, the way that we've been talking about, if you've been doing the meditation and the prayer and whatever works well for you to get you into that place, then you may have noticed this already. So there is something to be said here about passing judgment. You know how we talk about the tarot being the trip, the journey that the fool makes from the very beginning, where they step off the cliff. Seems like a foolish thing, but really it's just jumping into the unknown. And then they move into a place where you get to that. It's across the journey, you go to the happy ending. Well, you have to pass judgment in order to get to that world card, in order to get to that happy ending. And so there is kind of I get this sense of just dipping a toe in the water of judgment, just kind of checking into things to see how things are going. Especially with this energy, there's been communication or thought of communication. So there's this text that has been written but hasn't been sent. It's got that kind of feeling, but it's all because there's still a lack of trust in the situation. This all feels like it's kind of heavy in your person's energy. So that's the energy that you're in together as we get started here. Let's see what else wants to come out for that. So it's an interesting energy today, just in general. That's one of the things that I've noticed. It has been really rapidly changing. I mean, and even I will admit that even my moods this morning have been rapidly changing, and it hasn't been very much morning yet. So, this is pretty early for this much change. But it looks like you guys are in that too. So maybe that's something that's happening. Really and truly across this collective. Okay. So if there's a sense of breaking down, something that has been held back for an unbelievably long amount of time, and maybe making some rational decisions about it. Okay, so this is the Ten of Rods and the Five of Swords. The Ten of Rods is that card of carrying a burden. And so when it's in the reverse like this, sometimes it means you're laying the burden down, or at least laying part of the burden down. With it being so strongly, heavily, influenced in your person's energy right now, it feels like they're the ones that are laying down part of it, but it also feels almost like they can't carry it anymore, and they're tripping and dropping it. It's not an organized sense of laying it down. And then we've got the Five of Swords in reverse, which is actually really great because that's the way that you would hope somebody would handle a situation like this. The Five of Swords in the upright is not making a lot of sense. It's allowing that internal conflict to win out when making decisions, and sometimes not doing things for the right reasons. Here we see them stopping to kind of reconsider or at least recognize that that might be going on. So it's not necessarily the full process of discernment, but it might be the beginning of that process. We have the Eight of Pentacles. There's been a lot of growth. There's been a lot of growth here for both of you, but I can feel growth on your person's part. So that's powerful. We've been seeing that though. There's growth, but there's not a lot of movement. There's still this feeling of this impasse, this thing between you that is not going to be resolved just yet. And okay, that doesn't go there. I kind of wish it did, but it doesn't have the glow. Okay, so let me go ahead and wrap up what's happening here in your energy, because if you have been watching previous readings, you will have seen this Two of Rods comes out periodically to talk about an impasse between the two of you. And it's really all about getting on the same page about something. So it's not even so much that your beliefs are necessarily so different, but there is something that looms large between you, whether in some cases definitely an age gap, in some cases it's a difference of a different kind. So it could be besides age, it could be race, religion, it could be any number of things, but something that is, it's a surmountable gap in for some folks, and it's not being surmountable between the two of you right now, even if that's not usually how they think about things. There's a lot of fear though that's kind of built into that, so it's not a simple feeling. It's a fairly complex thing that's going on here. However, there's I can't help but notice that things are just changing so quickly, that energy between you, and there's this need to put the toe in the water and just kind of test to see how it would feel. And it's almost, how would it feel just to reach out and say hello? As one of my viewers mentioned not too long ago, um, it doesn't have to be a special occasion. You can just say hello. And you know, they are afraid to do that. They're afraid to do that without a reason, but they're also afraid that there's going to be some rejection here. You can feel a little bit of that despite the growth. So the growth helps them to realize and be a little bit more aware of what they're doing. We've seen that there is some awareness, but not necessarily always that knowledge of what to do with that awareness. So we're going to take a look at kind of what this is a question about what you can expect, but it's a question based upon what you've set into motion thus far. So obviously the things that you do in the future, your own free will very much factors into it. So it's not so much what's coming, but what you can expect based on what's already been put out there, the direction that you're kind of going. We know that there's going to be change. We know that your both of your free will is still very much in effect, and so is the free will of the folks that are closest to you. So you just never know if there may be somebody who creates a big enough change, or if you don't like the direction that you're headed, you have some options about what you can do about it. And that's kind of where this reading ends up going, because what we're wanting to understand is, once you kind of feel like you understand what you want to do, there's the Four of Cups. Then how do you execute? That'll be kind of the next question. Once you understand what you want to do, how do you execute? So we've got the Four of Cups, and this one is all about letting go. So this is, you can expect an exercise in letting go, an exercise in releasing attachment, okay? And so it's like we ask the question, not exactly what's coming, but what are we drifting toward with the existing everything that's happened, and the answer was, you are moving toward letting go of an attachment to the answer to this question. So let's see what else comes into that, because it's that first mantra that I start with, and those of you who have been with me for a while have heard this before, but I have a meditation practice, and I talk a little bit about it back in video I made back in October about meditation, and you can even find it in the the special playlist, the bonus videos playlist. But I talked a little bit about the concept of meditation, how to get started if it's something that sounds interesting to you, but you don't know how to do it. And some of I didn't get into my mantras, but the first one that I start with pretty much every time I start meditating is about this. It's this concept right here. It's removing or releasing that attachment and that expectation and the assumptions around people and situations and their outcomes. And so it is really just being okay with what comes. Um, okay, so we have the Three of Cups, and this is about emotion that is not flowing. And yet okay, so this is it's got a little bit of an echo of this Four of Cups in reverse energy, but there's more to it. So this is about you seeking your happiness, moving toward your happiness, your wish fulfillment, everything that fulfills you in that happy ending. And your person, you can see with the Judgment card, is kind of dipping their toe in the feeling of, well, what could it be? What does it feel like at this point since time has passed, you know? For some people, it's been days. For some people, it's been months. And, we've got some people where it's been years. But there has been this need to kind of check things out. But there's a movement toward happiness just overall. Both of you are doing this. Both of you are bringing those lessons to you. You're very much magnetizing those lessons to you, which is how you magnetize one another. You attracted each other because you were attracting these lessons. And there is, again, this sense of emotion that's not flowing right now, emotion that is, it seems like it's dammed up and almost needs to be redirected, which is another concept that we've heard a lot of in these readings, the concept of redirecting energy. So the Six of Cups is all about not forgetting about the past. So you can redirect energy and move into something different and redirect into a place where you get really passionate about a hobby and you start writing a book or flying airplanes or whatever it is that you get into, that has been kind of in front of you, but you haven't had the opportunity to do. And that's what we've seen in those other readings. But ultimately, you still maintain that balanced view where you're not forgetting about what brought you here to the place where you're learning these lessons. And you start to feel better. There's a sense of you starting to feel better and the lessons starting to actually have some benefit to you in your day to day life. But it does take a little while for it to get there. So we've got the World card. Huh, that's that's probably like the best news. You've got the Sun, the World, the Ten of Swords in reverse. These are such wonderful things that come to you as a result of you having let go with this Four of Cups energy. And so we've also got this Knight of Rods energy. So there's something that gets opened up for you. We've seen the concept of a door opening, but we've seen this Knight of Rods is like a new attitude. It's a new The Knight of Rods is not always about new anything. Sometimes it's just about being a passionate movement forward. And it is definitely that. But this is something new for you that gets opened up because of this situation that you've experienced. Ultimately, it is all very much connected with what you've experienced. And that's how it happens for you. Um, that is how this happens, and you begin to feel much better about things. So I keep having these cards fly out, and then they fly out upside down and don't want to be part of the reading. It's a lot of, it's still got that Eight of Wands kind of energy. It's energy that can barely be contained. All right. So you're going to be presented with a decision, and it's really both of you who are going to be presented with a decision. But here's the thing. You have, okay, both of these cards want to come out together. And this is an honorable mention, so it's not going to be part of the reading, but I'll get to it in just a minute. Sometimes they come out at me so fast that I have to kind of organize how I want to give you the messages. So we know there's going to be a decision that has to be made on both your sides, and it has to do with this Two of Rods. We've got a Two of Swords and a Two of Rods, okay? And so the Two of Swords talks about the decision. The Two of Rods talks about that impasse and where you're going to meet in the middle and somewhere You end up coming to a crossroads as a result of this impasse, which is part of the Two of Rods. Okay, sorry, my camera shut off right in the middle of the video, and I happened to notice that it happened. So jumping back in, what I was telling you was the Two of Rods represents this impasse, and this Two of Swords represents the decision that needs to be made. However, it's interesting because there was additional message that around this Two of Rods that had to do with the crossroads. So you end up at a crossroads somewhere in this process and have some things to decide, but your decision, it's not necessarily a good decision or a bad decision. It has everything to do with where you are in your healing and how many of these issues that kind of were surrounding you and creating problems and that your person had triggered and brought up for you, how many of them have you been able to solve? Because these are all going to be issues where you are encouraged to deal with them while you're in separation from your person. It's healing that has to happen, has to take place, but it's something that really only you have the key to this. And so that's what's really wanting to come out there. And then this is the honorable mention, the Six of Pentacles. And so the Six of Pentacles, the reminder is you've got to ensure that you feel good about the situation from an energetic give and take perspective. Before you are able to engage it. I mean, so you're definitely with this letting go of a need to control the situation or know what's coming specifically, but when you get to this place where you have a decision to make, it will depend upon how much of your healing you've been able to do. And honestly, your answer will be it will be very unique based upon your progress. So next, we're going to look into what you do when you get to this realization and you say, okay, so I've got to let go. That's where I'm headed next. It does feel like the right place to go, and maybe it doesn't feel like the right place for you to go. Some people, a lot of people have been in this cycle more than once. Okay. And so if this is not your first time in the cycle, you have an option where you get to decide, am I going to do this again? If you're going to say no and you're not doing the cycle again and you'd like to make a different decision about it this time because you're at that point, like it's not an emotional point necessarily. It's also a point in your lessons. It also is an emotional point. So I don't want to say that it isn't both of those things, I guess. But let's talk about where you go from here. How do you walk away if you decide that for now you need to go off in search of your own lessons and start working on those things? Um, or how do you really execute once you've made that decision or made a decision? Perhaps your decision looks different. Maybe it's not about walking away at all. Maybe it's just sitting still, leaving the door open, and sitting in that quietude, getting used to yourself, getting right with yourself. You can come in many forms. Okay, so the first thing that wants to come out here is that you've already made a lot of progress in the right direction. So this is the Three of Wands. And the Three of Wands can talk about something already having been set into motion. It can talk about potential. This is more, it's less, it's not so much that it's just potential that's going to happen. It's something that you've already enabled. So that's something for you to think about, that you're not at the beginning of this process. You've already started doing some of what's going to enable your progress here. We've got the King of Pentacles that's come out in reverse. So there is a heavy element for both of you of not feeling like you deserve this situation and making you scared. So if you dig deep down, even though you are completely willing to move forward, you will probably find that you do have some fear of this situation and the outcome of it. And that's part of what both of you are going to have to get past, only in some slightly different ways, because there's a rejection element here for you to feel like you need to get past. And for them, it's a feeling of, I feel terrible because I rejected somebody that I wanted, you know? I mean, that's basically what ended up happening there. And they're aware of it, but they're not making any sudden moves. So you may decide you also don't want to make any sudden moves, but one of the things that you need to consider is, first, recognize the fear. Recognize the fear that's been driving both of you before you're able to walk away or decide to sit, there's this element of needing to truly recognize your position, and part of it is going to be not just the fears that they've experienced, but the ones that you may have experienced as well. So this is the card. When I saw the Knight of Swords, that I also felt this one coming out. Oh my goodness. All right, we've got a, well, definitely these. I'm taking these together, and then I'm taking these together. Um, Again, the cards are coming out at me in such a way that I want to present some of them together. So we just had, here's something that you need to be aware of. You first want to recognize that fear. Recognize also that there's a fear on both your ends of looking at the situation as a whole and really getting to the root of what's going on. That's going to be true along with this feeling and this sense of fear that comes with certain types of love. And it's this fear of almost just being engulfed and taken in, and something that, they can't control, you can't control. It's a very challenging feeling to get past. So there's an element of codependency and sort of an anxiety and anxious attachment style that wants to hold on. But there's also this complementary avoidance that happens along with it. And so there's a balance that's needed. But if both of you were to step back and look at the situation as a whole, this would be abundantly obvious. And maybe it is on an intellectual level. I think both of you have recognized some element of that, which is actually comes a long way. So recognizing what's happening is kind of a big deal, but there's also this energy of the universe has kind of stopped to make you have the opportunity to really think things through. And every once in a while, it gooses you with this energy like we've got over here, where you are basically being given this opportunity to think it through. What would it be like? Where are you with this? How close have you come? Are you ready for your decision? And maybe the answer is not right now. However, it's something that every once in a while you're going to feel that quickening, and you get to decide. This is a card that we see a lot. This is the Star card. Sometimes we see it here in reverse, talking about a delay with this situation, but it also is a situation of great hope and inevitability. So there's something that is in the energy, kind of for you to consider as well. These are all things for you to think about as you're doing what it is that you've decided that you needed to do. If it's stepping back, then you spend your time recognizing the fear. You spend your time recognizing the nature of the relationship, and recognizing that you can trust, that the relationship doesn't go away because you have stopped chasing it. You've already noticed that. Both of you will have already noticed that in your case, it doesn't go away because you've stopped chasing it. You're still feeling it. And your person may still be running and hiding, but the relationship doesn't go away because they run and hide either. And so that's something that both of you are realizing. There's this inevitability to it, but there's also this sense of a delay and all of these other pieces that are tied up in there. And so as you walk away, as you sit tight, as you kind of sit and decide what is going to happen next, um, it's really about looking into yourself and determining where it is that you want to become more emotionally stable. So, the Nine of Pentacles, and that's what we've got here. This is the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. And the Nine of Pentacles in reverse talks about, okay, so we're going to acknowledge that there are some places where you want to get more emotionally stable. This is going to be true for pretty much anybody. If you're watching tarot, then probably you're aware of the fact that you're somebody who wants to make things better with yourself. And in order to make things better, you have to define the problem. You have to be able to identify, and for everyone, those fears will look different. This emotional stability, emotional independence piece will look different. With everyone, the relationships will look a little bit different. But these are still the concepts that you're going to want to look into. Um, but you're looking for those pieces because those are going to prepare you for a situation where you're able to be successful. However, it seems like never taking your mind off of that tendency for success. That's important. And also, don't talk yourself out of it. There's a there's a sense of you maybe wanting to try and talk yourself out of it because it's easier. And this is the sort of energy that comes from your person as well. it's maybe I just can move on without it. And this is what they tried to do. They tried to run away and put some distance in there, and it didn't work. It doesn't necessarily need to go away. You're just going to get to a place where you're prepared for success. And that's maybe one of the most important concepts that comes out here. So I'm going to grab you an oracle card for a little bit of advice. And so you've got the open intuition to seek clarification card. It's a neat card, and one of the things that it really encourages is for you to maintain that connection with your higher self and with your higher power that you've been working on. Maintain that, because that's where you're going to be able to ask for clarification. That's where you're going to be able to trust the answers that come back and think you're not just making things up. So and use your resources. So maybe you've got a couple of other resources. You've got other people that you trust. You can watch this channel. You've got me, and I'll see. We'll see where it lines up and where it doesn't. I'm just going to tell you what I see, but it's another source for you. There are other readers, all kinds of things out there that could potentially help you to seek clarification. But you've got to go in with that sense of what truly feels right to you. So we're going to go ahead and go into the extended. And as we do, we're going to look a little bit more into this energy of kind of, it's that energy that you're heading toward, because it looks like a really neat thing. And really, I guess what we want to ask is a little bit more about what you need to know about it. And we'll also see what that means with regard to your person and in their emotions as well. Probably a little bit deeper into this piece as well, just to get you some additional practical information about what you can be doing at this time. So I'll see you over in the extended if you want to go there. It's the Vimeo link will be down below. Otherwise, I will see you in another reading.